Hey YouTube people, today I want to answer a question. Many people have started with something like a Ryzen APU, such as the 2400G or the 2200G, and then they've added discrete graphics cards, 1070 or maybe a Radeon 5700. And now that third gen Ryzen's out, some of them are wondering what happens when I take my quad core APU and upgrade it to something like the 3600 third gen Ryzen. Well, I'm going to look at a system that's exactly the same with the Radeon 5700 and the 2400G, and then I'm going to upgrade it to a 3600 third gen Ryzen and see if I get any extra performance despite using the exact same GPU. So that's the question I want to answer is, do you actually get better graphical performance by moving to third gen Ryzen? Let's find out. So this is the little gaming box we'll be using to test all of this. It has inside a 5700 Radeon, just kind of the reference model. It also has HyperX 3200 megahertz, and it has 8 gigabytes, and also an M2 SSD on the back. And this is an AB350 Gaming ITX from ASRock. So at this point I've already run the benchmarks for the 2400G, and it's time to swap the CPU, which is really easy to do, but you will want to make sure that you upgrade your BIOS. Otherwise you may drop the third gen Ryzen in and it's not going to boot. So be sure you do that before proceeding. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at what happens when you keep everything the same and just upgrade the CPU. Does it actually improve GPU performance? Well, let's look at the first benchmark. We did Heaven, which is a classic but a great benchmark to test. Then the 2400G scored 4254, while the 3600 boosted that score to 5076. And if we look at the details of that benchmark, we can see that the minimum went from 9.5 to 50.4. So the minimum frame rate was much better on the 3600. And then if you look at the red graphs here, the maximum, you have a max of 327 on that 2400G and 396.7 on the 3600. Now you do have 6 cores on the 3600 and only 4 cores on the 2400, but it is what it is. And our average went from 168.9 to 201.5. Moving on to a more recent benchmark, this is superposition, and it went from 13,574 score to a 14,613 score. This was a 7% improvement, a little above 7%. And let's look at the details of that as well. So we're looking at the 2400 minimum frame rate of 72.27 moving to 90.34. And the average went from 101 to 109.3. And the max went from 129 to 136. So not as much of an improvement on this newer benchmark as Heaven, but one of the dramatic differences we're seeing by moving from the old 2400 to 3600 is that our minimum frame rates are usually improving quite a bit here, going from 9 to 50 in Heaven, and on superposition from 72 to 90. Which is really substantial improvement, and that also plays out later on when we look at some of the VR benchmarks. So let's go ahead into VR frame times. So I'm going to show some clips of the VR, just some clips of me playing VR, and what you want to look at is the frame times that you're seeing, because in general the 2400G frame times and the CPU was kind of overloaded, because not only is it having to run VR, but it's also streaming that and sending it over the air. to the Oculus Quest as a video feed. So we're really taxing the processor here quite a bit. And not only does it help moving to 6 cores, but also just in general, that 3rd gen Ryzen just is that much quicker. And the frame times went from 9 on average, and you see it really bumping around between, from 8 to 12 on the 2400, but you all see pretty consistently frame times of 5, which is really great to see. So all in all, the performance increase moving from a APU to a 3600 3rd gen Ryzen while using the same 5700 GPU, you get pretty substantial, depending on what you're playing, improvements, but you can see up to a 20% improvement. And definitely the VR frame times, while this is subjective, basically what you're seeing when you're working with different CPU is things just happen a little bit quicker, a lot less stuttering, things don't tend to lock up, and that's a combined improvement by adding 2 cores, a new process node, more efficient IPC or improved IPC on that 3600, which really helps things out. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video, and I would say yes, if you move from an APU to a 3rd gen Ryzen with a discrete GPU, you're going to see some performance on the table that you're going to be able to grab. So it's not just a CPU upgrade, it's going to help your GPU spread its wings and fly. So thanks for watching. If you like this, go ahead and like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.